Um, Thank you very much, Vice Chairman Schweikert. My Republican colleagues have planned today's hearing to talk about how great they think President Trump's 2017 tax law was ahead of many of the provisions expiring next year. I want to focus my time on one piece of the Trump tax law that I strongly opposed, which is the cap on the deduction of state and local taxes, which is also known as SALT. Ms. Jacoby, can you just explain what the SALT deduction is?
Sure. Thank you, Representative. Yeah, the SALT cap refers to a $10,000 cap on the amount of state and local taxes that a taxpayer can deduct from their taxes.
And this SALT deduction is not a new concept. It was in our tax code since the inception of the federal income tax in 1913, and its purpose is to prevent Americans from being double taxed. If you earn $50,000 and you pay $5,000 of that in tax to state and local government, you don't have that income available anymore. So it effectively allowed you to be taxed on the remaining $45,000. That's the effect of the deduction. Why might this deduction be important to families, California families in particular?
I think that the understanding among many households is that they are not fully able to benefit from all of that tax that they're not able to deduct on their federal taxes.
Right. So many Californians owe more than $10,000 in state and local taxes. Remember that state and local taxes also includes the property tax that you pay and the state taxes that fund the school systems that fund public safety. So the cap, the $10,000 limit on the state and local tax deduction really punished taxpayers in states with significant tax burdens who fund services that do help grow our economy, like investments in education and infrastructure. My office issued a report 5 years ago showing that nearly half of the constituents in my district used the SALT, the state and local tax deduction, with an average deduction of more than $22,000 per household. And the Trump tax law cut that deduction in more than half, capping it at $10,000. And this hurt many middle-class families whose communities are investing in public services, and we want states and localities to provide services to people. We think they're closer to communities than the federal government. And that SALT cap also made it harder for homeowners and would-be first-time homeowners to buy houses because the property tax they will owe would not be fully deductible. President Trump didn't make his motives unclear here. He stated that the cap on the SALT deduction was intended to punish so-called blue states who did not support him in the 2016 election. This tax law effectively discriminates against taxpayers who earn the exact same income based solely on where they live. I think that's wrong as a matter of federal policy, and that Congress should not repeat that mistake next year. There are concerns about whether the state and local tax deduction benefits those at the highest part of the income spectrum. So I have a solution. The very first bill I introduced this Congress was my SALT Act. It would eliminate that state and local tax deduction cap for families that make under $400,000 in annual income. For filers making $400,000 and above, the SALT cap would start at $60,000. It would be capped, as Trump did, and would taper as you climb, so that taxpayers earning $1 million or more couldn't claim the deduction at all. With the revenue raised from that change, my legislation would create enough funding to provide hearing and vision coverage for every Medicare recipient. This shows we can fund the right priorities when we enact the right tax policy. At a time when the cost of housing is sky high and too many Americans cannot save enough to afford a home, Congress shouldn't make homeownership even more unaffordable for working and middle-class families by extending this harmful SALT cap. We heard from voters across the country that costs are too high. So we need to lower their taxes, their federal taxes, by restoring the SALT deduction. The Republican Party controlled the House, the Senate, and the White House when it enacted the Trump tax law that punished Californians. They have a governing trifecta next year, and I urge them to use it to fix the state and local deduction tax cap. I yield back.